Oh, okay. All right. Okay, boy. Take 16.
Take it away, Sandy.
Welcome, everyone. This is the London Jazz Podcast, the show produced in partnership with the London, Ontario Jazz Association, an organization dedicated to advancing jazz performance, education, and appreciation in London, Ontario, Canada. My name is Barry Usher, and it's an honor to kick off this inaugural episode. The show started with a performance of the standard tune Beautiful Love, and it featured this episode's special guest on drums, Mr. Sandy MacKay. Sandy is a cornerstone of the Southwestern Ontario music scene with a career spanning over 50 years. He's an award-winning drummer. He's played with iconic bands like Truck and Persuasion. He's held the drum chair for Juno-nominated Oliver Whitehead Quintet. And since 1986, Sandy has served as the artistic director of the Jazz for the People series here in London, curating over 300 concerts, probably well more than that by now. Concerts that have certainly brought joy to the lives of many in our community. And beyond that, he continues to inspire as an active performer as well as a radio host, the show being Jazz Junction on 106.9 FM. And Sandy, thank you for joining me on this inaugural episode. Thank you for your ongoing contributions and dedication to the London jazz scene and your support of musicians in our community.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you.
Of course. When the idea came about to put together a podcast series to support the initiatives of the London Jazz Association, we wanted to tell some of the stories and spotlight some of the musicians that have contributed significantly to the jazz scene here. And naturally, your name was among the first that was mentioned. And it's because of your dedication, your enduring success in bringing jazz to local audiences over all of these years. It's a truly remarkable career that you've had and quite influential. So let's begin at the beginning. What first drew you to the drums? And can you recall any early influences that have shaped your playing and your approach to jazz?
Absolutely. So I'm from Ingersoll, Ontario, not exactly known as a jazz hub at all. So my education in jazz started beyond the town limits. However, with being a drummer, I was strongly influenced by my oldest brother, Gail. Gail was the drum major for the Ingersoll Pipe Band and served with them from age 11 until his death at age 81. So, longtime influence. Not only was he a drummer in the pipe band, but he also had a drum kit, which he had bought from Chapman and Hewitt in London. He told me the story about back in the 50s of him taking it one piece at a time down to the train station, going back and getting the rest of the kit. So that drum kit was there in the house when the Beatles came to North America, made a big splash, and so Ringo Starr on television saw that, and that was it. I wanted to get into it. So in the household, there wasn't necessarily any jazz records, but there were some swing records. So I was used to hearing some Glenn Miller, some of the Dorsey Brothers music. My brother Gail had a girlfriend who gave him a Max Roach album, and 1958 Pole winner, had a beautiful drum set on the cover, and I would force myself to listen to the music, not understanding it, but it said he was an award winner, so there must be something good going on here. And now, at this stage of life, I listen to it, and it's all very understandable. But as a kid, it didn't make much sense. But because it was the best, I listened to it over and over and over again. There was also a Gene Krupa record, and the big deal was there was a drum kit on the cover. Right. So I get exposed to these recordings and listen to pop radio, not realizing that most of the backup musicians on these things were jazz musicians, like Ed Shaughnessy, drummer from the Tonight Show band, and great drummers like Earl Palmer and Hal Blaine. So all this had an influence, sort of laying the groundwork for things. Right.
So your early influences were incredibly diverse, it seems. When did you discover jazz in particular, or was there ever a distinction in the kind of playing that you did?
Well, when I learned how to play, and I'm self-taught, I learned a lot from watching my brother play the drum kit, and at that time you were expected to, you expected to know how to play a rock and roll tune and a waltz and a polka and Latin, and so that did influence my interest in it, and with my brother being with a pipe band music, if you listen to the drumming as they're going down the street, it does swing. And so it's got a lilt to it. And so I was able to take that influence and pardon me, not really realizing that there was a jazz sensibility to it. And so later on, when I got up to London and was able to play with some fellows who knew how to improvise, that had a big influence. But the early years, sort of more pop, rock and roll, and in fact, that's what brought me up to London, was to play in a rock band.
Right, the band Truck.
The band Truck,
and that was the late 1960s.
Yeah, '69. Moved up to London, and lived in a house on Beaconsfield Ave, communal living, and had a big red truck that we traveled around on. And my friend Larry Ernewine, who played with us in the opening segment there,
Yep.
was in that group with me. So we go back a long way. So,
any memorable stories that you can remember from that time?
Well, we at one time we played 67 consecutive nights up in Quebec.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was divided between 3 different clubs, and so the one it was Quebec, Montreal, and Sherbrooke. So you finished up on one, got to the next one, set up, and away you went. One of the fellows in the band was underage, so he had to spend the breaks locked up in the dressing room. So I remember that well. Yeah, and I also remember that during that time, we got to go to an after-hours club in Montreal, witnessed my first jazz concert, and it was Norman Marshall Villeneuve on drums, and he was accompanying the guitarist Sonny Greenwich.
Wow.
So this is 1970, and I'd never heard music like that before, never been exposed to it. First time I ever saw a smaller bass drum, so little 18-inch bass drum. And later in life, I got to know Norman, and he remembers that club very well. So I was privileged to take that in.
Amazing. So when your time with that band came to an end and you settled back in London, how did you insert yourself into the jazz scene here?
Well, it took me a few years to settle back in London. Like I continued to travel with different groups. Had the opportunity in 1975 to get off the road and play in a house band, which was very inviting. And the house band required quiet playing and with a jazz sensibility. So it started with a quartet, eventually became a piano trio, and that to me was that was my music university education. Even though I didn't go to university, but playing 5-6 nights a week, no sticks, all brushes, very quiet. And learning how to do that has also kept me working at my age now, because when necessary, I can play out, but I can also play very quietly as well. Which for a drummer, there's so many different stereotypes that people have, and so did that from 75 to 80. And into the 80s, then I had the opportunity to play with a group that was nominated for a Juno, a jazz group called the Oliver Whitehead Quintet. Mm-hmm. And we went all across Canada, played jazz festivals in Vancouver, Montreal, Edmonton, Toronto, Ottawa, and the pinnacle was the Montreux Detroit festival, which was fantastic. It was a fantastic time.
I mean, these are amazing memories, and you have such a long, storied career as a performer, as a sideman, but also as a curator of the Jazz for the People series. How did that come about that you took on that concert series?
Well, that was interesting. Back in 1980, Grant Graham, great piano player, worked out a deal with the London Public Library to present these jazz concerts, which allowed exposure of the music to folks that wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to hear it. At that time, there were still clubs that people could attend. Not a lot of concerts, so to have a monthly concert that was purposely called Jazz for the People rather than Jazz is only for you and me, and was able to welcome people in. I participated in the early years, and I took over directorship in 1986. And so I've been curating, your words, ever since. Never expecting it to last, almost 40 years.
Almost
for me.
40 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are more memories than you could possibly recount. But anything come to your mind in particular from that concert series? A special concert that you remember, maybe connecting with the audience in a special way, or perhaps you yourself as a performer?
Well, as I sit across the table here, looking at you, my friend, you know what I'm about to say with this concert that we did recently involving the music of Cannonball Adderley and with Nancy Wilson singing. And this was a recording that was released in '63, way before you were born. I heard it around about the time that you were born, and then waited another 40-odd years before I got a chance to perform it. And you very lovingly went through, made charts. We had good rehearsals, and pardon me, the presentation of it was just fantastic. It was like a dream come true for me.
Well, it's very kind of you to say.
Well, it's true. So that's an outstanding one.
Certainly.
Another one I'll just mention off the wall. When we were doing the jazz concert series at the old library on Queens Ave, it was a summer night, and the power failed, and so we were plunged into darkness there. None of the electric instruments could work. So open up a door, let the outside light in, and we proceeded to do an acoustic history of jazz. So my friend Larry Smith took us all through that and saved the day. And it was, as I say, another memorable event.
Wow. So you've seen a number of changes occur in London. You've already alluded to a few. How have you necessarily had to adapt as a performer, as a musician here locally in order to keep playing, in order to continue to present this music?
Well, part of the thing is that, as I say, when I was young and learning how to play, to be well diversified and not just to play in one style. So a lot of the playing with a piano trio is different than playing with an electric fusion band like the Whitehead. Accompanying horns is different, especially accompanying singers on drums. And I'm very proud to say that singers are always very complimentary to me about how I can back them up and not overpower them. So just being able to adapt in each situation.
So is that the primary advice you would give to young musicians? Thinking about the audience for a podcast like this, I think there are likely people listening who are not only enjoying listening to the music, but wanting to be performers themselves. What words of wisdom can you impart to those people?
Well, just to be as versatile as you possibly can. If you do get the opportunity to play in improvising music like jazz, try to make it so that you're still relating to the audience, because the audience wants to be taken in and included with it. And if because jazz itself intrinsically is a dialogue. You have musicians on stage. This one's going to say something. Well, you don't want to be talking over them. You want to listen on your instrument. You can respond. You can be influenced by it, and the crowd, if it's presented properly, will be taken into the conversation, and as you know, when all these comes together, it's just so special, so special.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that would be something, as a musician, I'm sure, that continues to excite you and keep you coming back. Those moments of those conversations where those special moments happen on stage.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, a lot of times you'll see at the end of the tune, while the applause is going on, you'll see musicians looking at one another, smiling, laughing, because everybody's just so ecstatic with the results that collectively we got. It's a lonely existence to sit at a set of drums and play in a basement, you know.
Right.
But to get out there and in the company of great musicians and in turn, seems like the better ones are the friendliest ones as well. And I've met so many wonderful musicians over the years who have been great mentors to me. If I could, I'd just like to list off a couple. So piano players like Grant Graham, David Priest, Charlie Rollo, John Nibarian, tenor sax player Ian Robinson, who was just so much fun to play with. Drummers like my friend Bob Hughes and John Bond down Sarnia way. All these guys were mentors to myself, and just you get a chance to play some music together and establishes a rapport, and these are strong bonds that exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have a unique position in the London music community, being a versatile performer and knowing a lot of the players around. Let me put you on the spot. What role specifically do you think jazz plays in helping to develop the culture and community of London? Why would jazz be necessary for our community and many of the people in it?
Well, because as I said before, if it's presented properly, it's inclusive. It's also seen as a sophisticated form of music. So in London, quite often, if there is an affair that's being presented at some sort of sophisticated level, first music that they'll turn to is jazz. So that in part makes it an integral part. The venues in the city, such as the Aeolian Hall, jazz is essential there with their presentations, not only in the hall but the street festival that they do as well. Downtown London, through our friend Brian Ball, who helps organize the summer jazz street performances, integral part. The Wonderland Gardens music presentation, jazz, integral part of that too. So it is woven into the general music mosaic in London. It's definitely a part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that in mind, what do you have up next?
Well, as far as Jazz for the People goes, we'll continue with a lot of variety in presentations. 1 month it'll be like a Dixieland presentation. 1 month it'll maybe feature guitarists. Another month maybe a vibraphone player. There's some brilliant Brazilian jazz musicians in town, as you know, that we'll be taking a look at. Big band. It's going to run the gamut.
Wonderful. Where could people find out information about those concerts?
Contact the London Central Library for the Jazz for the People jazz series. Also, too, as you mentioned earlier, that I do DJ work on 106.9 FM.
What was that station again?
106.9 FM.
106.9 FM.
That's right. That's the X at Fanshawe Radio. Jazz Junction radio show running since 1987, and I've been associated with it for the past 24 years.
Wonderful.
So I'm a busy guy,
Absolutely.
but good.
Well, Sandy, thanks for squeezing in time to do this. And a big thank you, particularly to anyone still watching this podcast and taking their time to view this episode. For more information about the London Jazz Association and its initiatives, visit jazzassociationlondon.ca. And as we wrap up, we're about to hear a brief message from Seth McNall, one of the directors of the London Jazz Association. He'll be sharing some updates about the upcoming London Jazz Festival in April. And following that, we'll hear again from Sandy on one final tune to close out the show. Sandy, thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolute pleasure to talk to you. I'm Barry Usher, and this is the London Jazz Podcast.
My name's Seth McNall. I'm one of the directors of the London Jazz Association, and I'm also on the committee of the London Jazz Festival. The London Jazz Festival is a free 1 month long festival in the City of London that runs the entire month of April. This year, 2025, it'll be our second year of running. We're going to be at this wonderful place that we're at right now, Toboggan Brewing Company, downtown London. We'll also be at the Wolf Performance Hall, which is part of the London Public Library System, and many other venues throughout the City of London. For more information about it, check out londonjazzfestival.ca for all the latest upcoming events. Thanks so much.